Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm so grateful that you are enjoying this free content on YouTube.
If you want to be the first to access content like this and not have to wait a week or who knows how long before you can see this content, then you should subscribe to B-Side, where you will get the content immediately as soon as it drops and you won't have to wait at all.
The B-Side app is waiting for you to come home. Peace. Yeah, I learned the game from Charles and Maxie. You can never tax me. Back to back for the pastor that didn't even ask me. Back to back like I am the brother with equal blessings. Back to back like I'm GE 96, 97. Whoa, I wanna see my dwellers really change. That's the reason for switching my freaking lane. Now I'm potting, still saying Yeshua's name. Some of y'all hoping that Timmy will go away. It's 2 years later, homie, where y'all at? Sat up on my couch and made a B-Side app. I'm not sure what it was that really made that happen, but this is what I gotta do, it really make God clap. I mean, whoa. I love you guys so much, and I'm so grateful that you decided to be with us on today. It's so churchy for me to say on today, but it kind of is. Shout out to my dwellers. Thank you guys so much for your generosity. Thank you for pressing B. Thank you for being a part of this community. If you have not downloaded the B-Side app, I must ask you, what the heck are you even doing? If you have, I am so grateful for you. We got over 25,000 downloads, about 5,800 active users, and I am just through the moon as a result. So thank you guys so much for being a part of it. If I told y'all I was excited for my guest today, that would be an understatement. It would be an egregious understatement because I'm ebullient about my guest today. Yes, look it up, ebullient. I even know how to spell it, E-B-U-L-L-I-E-N-T, ebullient. I even know the definition. It means to be zestfully enthusiastic. I'm ebullient about my guest today. My guest today is my sister from another mister. She is my friend, and she is a profound speaker. She is an author, and she's one of the best therapists that I know, hands down. No hyperbole, no smoke, no platitudes. She has an earned doctorate. Not one of these bootleg, I went over to Oxford and walked around their halls for 3 hours and audited a class. No. She's an earned doctorate in her field. She helps more people than she could ever name, because that would be a violation of her confidentiality and disclosures. And she's with me today. She is the author of a book that if you do not have, you need to get. And after the time that we spend together, you will know why. The book is called Garden Within, and I would like to introduce to some and present to others. Dr. Anita Phillips is in the building, everybody. Let's go! Hey. Let's go! You're here.
Hey, friend.
We talked about it, and now we're being about it. That's exactly what we're doing.
We're being.
I'm so grateful you are here.
I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad you are here. Okay. I have to act like I don't know you right now.
Uh-huh.
Hey,
okay, right.
Hey, Dr. Anita. Man, kind of just tell us about you. Like, you know, before you were Dr. Anita Phillips, you were just Anita. And like, what was Anita doing that made Dr. Anita like manifest? Who were you before you were you?
This is the current iteration of me on the journey of my life. Who I'll be in a decade might not be who I am today. I hope not. I hope it just keeps getting better. I hope it keeps getting stronger. So it sounds like you're saying you just evolved. We do.
Okay, let's go.
We all do.
I want it.
But I didn't become Dr. Anita until I was 35 years old. So let me just throw that out, because so many people feel behind. So many people feel like they're not on schedule. And that was me, right? It was just like I had a plan. I had an educational plan from 7 years old. I was a student of students. I've always been a nerd. And a teacher told me about college, like encouraging me, maybe probably third grade or something. And she was like, you're going to go to college. You're so smart. And she explained what that was. And then I said, well, how much college can you go to? Can you go to more than one? And so then, because it sounded great, right?
Right.
And so she was like, well, you can get a bachelor's degree, a master's degree. Then she told me about a PhD and then even maybe be a professor if you go that. And I said, well, then that's what I'm going to do. So I made a decision at that small age that I wanted to get a PhD because that was like the most student I could possibly be because I loved school. And so that was with me early on. And so a lot of the things that we are meant to be, the seeds get planted very early on.
Well, I want to give a shout out to this teacher.
Yes.
Because I clearly didn't have that teacher.
Mrs. Carol Eichenbaum.
And you still remember her name.
Oh, my gracious. She's passed away now. I went to her funeral. I drove across state lines to get to her funeral. Carol Eichenbaum.
No.
Mrs. Eichenbaum.
A good teacher.
Everything.
Will change everything about the way you see yourself. The best teacher I had was in the alternative school that I graduated from. Like, I didn't have anybody that sowed those seeds.
Early.
No. They were just like, he's probably going to be in a gang, so let's get him in an at-risk program. Like, nobody was thinking about me being successful at anything except Mr. Gorelick. A weed-smoking, ponytail-wearing, hippie vegetarian who liked to tout that his poop doesn't smell because he doesn't eat dead animals, that clean. Right? And he told me, I think you are a gifted communicator and you could debate with anybody. You have a brilliant mind. And he told my mom, your kid should do something in speaking. It wasn't no prophetic word it was Mr. Gorelick in the alternative school that I went to.
Yeah. That's it.
So that's just a beautiful thing that you got that, like, before you were double digits.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I was really blessed in that way. The school space that I was in, and school was my haven because there was a lot of chaos at home, and school was my haven, and I was lucky to have the intellectual capacities that attract a teacher's attention.
That's beautiful.
And she was a good one. You know, she introduced me to Shirley Chisholm at that time.
Wow.
My first hero. She was a Jewish woman who had been an activist in the civil rights movement. And so in this largely white school system, she sees this little black girl and she's like, I'm just going to pour all the things in there, right? And so she's speaking incredible words to me about what I'm capable of.
Wow.
And kids' hearts are really fertile soil.
They are.
Almost anything you tell them, they'll believe. And that's
true.
Is critical.
It is critical.
You can plant any seed in there.
Yeah.
It's going to grow. And some of those seeds, I mean, not every seed I got was good.
Understood.
Will persist for decades.
Yeah, for sure.
We're still trying to uproot certain things.
Yeah.
But she did plant that good thing. And so I knew I wanted to go to that education level. I had an older sister who had a serious mental illness, and as those symptoms began to develop, that was one of my earliest traumas. Was seeing my sister being just battered by this storm that was her mental illness, even though we didn't know what it was. And so that was an early trauma for me. So I see that as the first seeds of becoming actually a trauma therapist.
Right.
It all goes all the way back. I talked a lot.
Yeah.
So here we are.
Mrs. Hargett.
Listen, told you.
Mrs. Hargett kindergarten told my mama on the report card, Timmy is a good student, but he talks too much. You were right, Mrs. Hargett.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I didn't have that at school, but there were times when I didn't feel like my words were welcome in some of my family spaces.
Understood.
And I think I understand it better now as a parent. I think it was because there was so much stress. And so my miscellaneous conversations just started feeling like extra noise.
Understood.
But for me, the be quiet for a little while was a rejection of the most valuable gift I had to offer. It was how I connected with the world. And so those were seeds that had to be overcome. Like keep talking. Keep talking,
for sure.
You know? So it was like, it's okay to talk in structure places. Give the Easter speech, do the child sermon. Like that was okay. But like that interpersonal communication. I had to grow through that.
That is
adult relationships.
Fascinating. I don't know too many people that have like teased out, you know what I mean? To that detail a way that rejection could be presented.
Yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean?
That
like
was for me.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
So in an interpersonal relationship, it's like, well, how much talking can I do? How much can I share? And if it doesn't feel like it was super welcome, I would start going down quick. I just start dialing it down and needed to eventually learn to pay attention to that, pay attention to when it was happening. But for a long time, I didn't notice it was happening.
Wow.
And I'm introverted anyway. So
for sure.
I would just start like closing in personal spaces, but in public spaces, I could open all the way up. So that made school even more of a safe place for me. And the work that I do, you know, because I get to listen to people and teach people things that they want to learn.
Yeah.
Which, like when you said that about having a good teacher, the thing that jumped up at me was, isn't that what we try to do? Isn't that what you and I are trying to do? In every single interaction, I want to be a good teacher.
That's exactly right.
I see my therapy work has so much teaching in it.
Yeah.
Whether I'm teaching this person that they're welcome in my space with my body language, whether I'm teaching them that their words matter, that they're not as broken as they think that they are, that their response to their trauma is normal, that they're actually normal.
Yes.
It might not be healthy, it might not be functional, but it is normal for you to respond this way to what you've been through.
Yeah, for sure.
So I feel like we're teaching all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had good teachers, and that did really rescue me. So that built into who I was. My sister's mental illness built into who I was. Wanting to have this education built into who I was, or who I am now today. But I definitely felt like I was behind for a long time. You know, it was like, well, you graduate from college at 21, you get your master's by 23, you get your PhD by 27. So 35.
You're late.
I was feeling late.
I
was feeling really late. And if you had told me even then that so much of what God had placed in me would be exploding when I was 50, because I'm 50, I'd have had a temper tantrum like a 2-year-old, back arched, everything, like on the floor, like, what? 50? It's going to take till 50? Child, it's all good. I couldn't have been here at any other moment, and I'm so grateful. And so, like, we just have to release these timelines that we're on. You know, life is short, but life, if God graced us to stay alive, it'd be long too. And you can live a lot of lives. And you can have seasons that are fruitful, and then totally different seasons that are fruitful. You raise kids, you empty nest, you get education. It's just like, baby, it ain't over till it's over.
All right, I didn't know you was going to just put on roller skates and just...
We just in here.
start backward skating through... Listen, oh my God, where do when I tell you scriptures are screaming at me right now.
I love that feeling. It's just like, pop, 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 pop.
They are screaming at me right now. Abraham screaming at me right now.
Come on.
Genesis 12, he is 75. Isaac is born when homie's 100.
Listen.
Like, we're talking about 25 years.
Right. But before that, somebody else was born, because y'all out here trying to make stuff happen.
That's because Ishmael is plan B. He's the original plan B.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking about Joseph, and y'all are all going to bow down to me. Yes, sir. And you're going to prison.
Yeah.
You're going to a prison, right. And then you'll be in the palace, right? David's oily and goes back to taking care of sheep, because Saul reigns for 40 years.
Listen, there are prophetic words that are coming to pass in my life now that I received in my early 20s. And all I want to say to people who have been holding on to a word like that for a long time is it should make you excited, because God is that far ahead of you. God was that far ahead of you. Oh, it turns out God was 10 years ahead of me, 30 years ahead of me. Like, doesn't that just make your faith deeper? Like, isn't that just more exciting that this is your God? That not that the word hasn't come to pass, but that he's that far down the line? Man, you can rest in a God like that.
Lord have mercy on my whole soul.
You can rest in a God like that. Now, I haven't always been great at resting, but I'm getting better at it.
For sure.
I'm getting pretty good.
Can we also talk about the fact that at 50 years old, you look 30?
Wow. We thank him.
So not only can you rest in the providence of God by being patient, but when he gives it to you.
Come on. And you know what? I feel better than I've ever felt in my life. I have more energy. I am happy. I am free. My blood pressure is great. Like, I went to the doctor recently. He was like, all these numbers are amazing. I'm like, bless his name. Man, I feel good.
No, I just think people that feel like I heard a word from God it must mean I need to get ready. Some people don't understand getting ready could be 20 years.
You don't, and some stuff you don't even have to get ready. Just keep living your life. I have never, it is rare. I can't think of one even right now that I've received some message that I really believe was from the Lord about a future event that I kept right in front of my face.
No.
You just stop obsessing.
Yeah, I tuck that away.
Yeah, you tuck it away, and the Holy Spirit will bring it back to your remembrance when you have an intersection about it.
Absolutely correct.
Because if you chase it, you'll be like a moth to a flame. You'll keep burning up.
It's so true.
So it's just like, do not do that. Just rest in it, walk, because you also can't conceive of everything that God's going to do. When I received that word, there was no Instagram. There was barely internet, okay? It was like in my 20s, I was still it was like late 90s or whatever. I mean, the internet didn't even pop off till like 98. So for me to have been able to conceive how God would do it, the structures didn't even exist. There were no smartphones. There was no YouTube. There was no streaming. And God has used a lot of these mechanisms to spread the word that he gave me. So I couldn't have conceived of it because it didn't even exist. You don't know what the world's going to be doing in 5 years. You don't know what the world's going to be doing in 10 years. And you're trying to fit it into what you understand as a possible mechanism. But you can't see the future. God's there. So when people say, well, did you always see yourself doing this? Yes and no. I always saw myself pouring out the gifts that he gave me, but I couldn't have painted this exact picture. That's why it says eyes have not seen nor have ears heard. Literally, stop. Like, you literally don't know what it's going to look like. When we talk about the Bible saying he's able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or think, like, a lot of times we don't really lean into that verse. What we mean by that is what I have asked or thought will be even bigger when it comes. No, it's what you didn't even think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we get satisfied when something comes through bigger than we thought it would come through. But I'm still looking for the thing that hadn't crossed my mind. I want to see that thing. When God does that thing, now we cooking with grease and exceedingly abundantly. I'm grateful for the extra big manifestation, but I'm also still looking for the exceedingly abundantly. I'm not playing my God short. You know, we are so trapped in our own thinking, our own desires, that we are like not even staying on the lookout for the good stuff yet to come. Not sure how we got on that topic. So we talk about how I became me or whatever.
Well.
But this is kind of some of the ways. Let me tell you.
You are helping all of us understand in the grander understanding of God's Alpha and Omega-ness.
Omega and Alpha.
Right? His beginning and endness.
Yes.
His first and lastness.
Yes.
And the fact that the middle is just this wild ride as we experience it. Right? But he always knows where it's going to land.
He does.
Like he was in no way bothered that Adam and Eve could do what they did and he not have a redemption arc for it. He was in no way he's like, it's fine because the seed of the woman shall bruise the head of the serpent, and he shall bruise
and the
his
plan
heel.
was in her.
The one who messed up.
The seed of the woman
shall bruise
was in her. Literally, he was in there already. He's in there already. Can we do a quick biology lesson on ovaries?
Please.
When a woman is born, a girl child is born, she has all the eggs in her ovaries that she'll ever have. She doesn't continuously produce them like men continuously produce sperm. She comes here with her eggs. And so that means when my mom was born, the egg that will become my genetic material was already in my mama. When she was in her mama, it was in her mama. So the seed of the woman, like literally the genetic material that will become Jesus's body, had to be in Eve to pass down to the daughter, to the daughter, to the daughter, to the daughter, to Mary, already there. Because Jesus had a human body. He was no man's son, but he was a mama's child. And he had to have a human, fallen, destructible body to live in. So the material for that body was literally in her. So it's not even like just a metaphor, like the seed of this woman. It was, built it in. That's why it's important for Matthew to have included the women in the line.
That's absolutely correct. That's absolutely correct.
Of Jesus' genealogy.
He
was not biologically related to Joseph, but he was biologically related to her.
I have shortness of breath, and it's because my Bible nerd IQ is going off.
We out
and
here.
I'm losing my mind right now. I've never heard that explanation in my life, and it has never felt so right. There is nothing to even squint my eye at as you say that.
The biology lines up. Biology lines up. Now, we could talk about women carrying the word literally in their bodies, but we don't have to get on that topic.
We don't have to get on. Lord have mercy.
That would be another day. But when God shaped her, the solution was shaped.
Absolutely correct.
Literally in the body.
So we're not even preparing for what he's telling us we're going to do. It's already in us. We're prepared.
Yeah, and that readiness thing, God's just getting me ready. God's just getting me. I mean, child, my character development should really just be about me wanting to have this relationship with this God that I adore.
Absolutely correct.
I think we have to be careful. Sure, God wants to see us mature and things like that,
Yeah.
but the narrative that God is somehow holding up things from me because I'm not good enough yet, I feel like that gets a little dangerous. There's a subtext to that narrative.
For sure.
That we have to be careful about.
So here is how I want to say yay and amen to that. I believe that Joseph's preparation to speak to Pharaoh had nothing to do with getting ready. It had to do with learning Egyptian.
Yeah.
That is not his native tongue. So working for Potiphar is when he is learning the Egyptian language as a servant.
Yeah.
The better he becomes at the language, the more he's promoted.
Yeah.
He does, I believe his 2-year prison stint is for him to be fluent. So that when Pharaoh's dream needs interpreting, he doesn't need an interpreter to speak to Pharaoh. I don't believe Pharaoh brings him in to be his second. I'm getting chills thinking about it.
Oh my gosh! Listen, I'm sitting here like, don't bounce and hit the microphone. Like
I literally believe that his preparation was him learning a different language and becoming fluent in it, so that he could literally oversee Egypt without using an interpreter, because Jews were despised.
Yeah.
So he is so much more Egyptian feeling to Egyptians than he is Jews, that when his brothers come for relief from the famine, they don't even recognize him. He knows them, but they don't know him. They don't even detect a Jewish accent from this dude because he's so fluent.
I love it.
And until he kicks everybody out, and then Scripture says he has to reveal himself to his brothers.
Wow.
Which is the same thing Jesus did, type and shadow.
Yeah,
but that's what that's about. So when we talk about getting ready, you may need an education.
You may need to accumulate information. You need to accumulate wisdom, right? Because if anybody's ever taken classes to learn a language in school, by the time you get to like level 4 or 5, we're not even learning words anymore.
Nope.
We're studying the culture.
That's exactly
We're studying
right.
history.
That's absolutely
We're studying
correct.
the nuances.
That's absolutely correct.
You can't translate between two languages if you don't understand the culture in which each language develops.
Absolutely
correct. So it's more than words. It's a nuance.
It's the nuance. And he had to have Egyptian nuances.
Yeah.
He needed to know how to talk to Pharaoh and how to do these business transactions
without standing out. Right. So you mentioned earlier, I grew up in a community that was largely white, largely Jewish. So I was like that black girl back then. And,
Yep.
People would be surprised now, but we know when somebody is in a space that doesn't feel like they're native to the space.
That's absolutely correct.
And so that's what I'm hearing too when you're saying he learned the language, but he was also there so long.
He was immersed in the culture.
He was indistinguishable.
His brothers could not recognize him.
He was indistinguishable, but that didn't make him a sinner.
Nor did it make him Egyptian.
That's what I'm saying. People be like, you out here with, you doing what? I can't. Okay.
So I'm not supposed to be a light in darkness?
Right.
I can't appear at the party?
And I don't have to necessarily appear in a Jesus Saves t-shirt with
Lord
my,
have mercy.
But that doesn't mean that that I don't remember who I am. So that's another episode as well, probably. But That's so
David
good.
went and worked for the Philistines for a minute after killing Philistines. Let's just stop judging people's arc.
You know, so many people.
Off of 7 months.
Daniel.
Off of a picture. Daniel worked for 3 different kings.
And because he was so intelligent. The Bible says he understood their science.
Yes, he did.
Don't get me started.
Yes, he did.
He understood their science.
Daniel was in the lion's den when he was in his 60s.
What? I was today years old. It never even crossed my mind to wonder that.
Yeah.
But the picture in my Sunday school book makes him look young.
No. He was young in chapter 1.
Never crossed my mind to wonder that. I love it.
Your boy was in his 60s. So he's an older man.
And that's why he was like, king is cool. Because at this point.
I don't care. I know you just made an edict that said I can't pray. Guess what I'm about to go home and do? Pray with the windows open.
And I am a witness, just at 50.
I think he was in his 80s,
these later
actually.
years will really get you acting like it's whatever. I'm whatever. It's whatever.
Do whatever you think you must do because I'm not. I
not
don't care.
Changing.
I don't care. Yeah.
It is growing in me.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I imagine by that time he was really on the loose. Never occurred. I'm gonna need them to edit those Sunday school book pictures. I need them to draw him a little older.
I think he was in his 80s, actually. I don't even think it was 60s. I aged him too young. I think he was in his 80s because he was in governmental positions across 3 kings: Nebuchadnezzar, Darius, and Cyrus. So because
he wasn't a young man.
He wasn't a young man. And because we read it and it's like chapter 1 and chapter 6, we still think he's like 13.
Right. I mean, I'm talking about the
18 or
visuals.
25.
I'm talking about that child's Bible with the
Exactly.
picture in
That's
it.
exactly
Everybody's
right.
always young.
He's
pretty much. Pretty much.
It's so true. Bro was old.
Yeah.
Bro was really
good
old.
Stuff. That's good stuff.
So you have just helped me. I know you just helped us appreciate God's time. Let me say one more thing about this. Yeah, no, you good. I don't know because I'm marinating on this whole thing.
Me too.
Here's what I find. I did a message several years ago that sometimes you get a message and you don't care if anybody likes it. You just feel like I got a revelation. I'm going to share it. I don't even care if y'all even get it. Mm-hmm. And it was called. It has something to do with fermentation. It was called like the art of fermentation or the fermentation of Jesus. It was not a glamorous title. What I dealt with was the fact that the first messianic prophecy given with promise is Genesis 3:15. And the birth of Jesus is 4,000 years later. Mm-hmm. And then you're sitting here wondering, why is Jesus the most intoxicating man that ever lived?
He's just been fermenting.
For 4,000 years. The word had fermented.
Generation after generation.
So we have a lot of people that rush what God has put in them to the market. Mm-hmm. And the only thing people can taste is juice.
Ooh.
It should have been intoxicating.
Yeah.
It should have been fine wine.
Mm-hmm.
And you're just releasing juice. You're sugary and fun. Mm-hmm. You're a Capri Sun out here.
Oh.
We got Capri Sun Ministries.
Not a Capri Sun, bro.
We got Capri Sun Ministries.
How those are still even being produced? The taste of those.
You are just juice pouch. You are a foil pouch of sugar.
That's what it is. Because the fact that we even call it juice, which is because it ain't even juice,
with a spear straw that if you don't get right, juice is gonna be everywhere,
and only a child could drink that. Okay,
there's a lot of juicy churches with a bunch of kids in it, high off sugar. But no one's sober-minded, no one's relaxed, because we just need more people to ferment a little longer, to become actually intoxicating. So that people, when they partake, they know, oh, this has been aged. So good. This has sat around a while. There is a soberness. Okay, so let me ask you this question. At 50, these things have manifested for you. How, and I can ask you this question because I already know you keep it a buck. If you had now what you had at 30.
30, even 30. Oh. Yeah, the things I thought I knew that I did not know at 30. There's no substitute for time. There just isn't. It's not about, we want acceleration. We want all of these things. And God does that in some areas for some things, but we want it in everything. It's really a cultural demand. It's not a spiritual inspiration. There was no substitute for time. The things that I will learn, the maturity that I will.
I'm so sorry. You got to take me slower. I'm so sorry. You're just saying nuggets, and then I have to try to ignore them, and it's going to be 5 minutes from now, and I'm going to forget. Okay. So this may be a 9-hour pod.
We're just going to be here.
What the heck did you just say? This is more of a cultural.
I think I said our desire for God to accelerate things is more of a cultural demand than a spiritual inspiration. And it is true because we live in a largely westernized world where the future is the preferred tense. Some cultures celebrate the past, traditional African thought, and even traditionally Black Americans, because of that, are past oriented. I mean, we're stuck in the past. It means that history and the lessons and things are important to us.
Very important.
And how we move forward. You have some cultures that are more present oriented, and those cultures tend to be highly relational, highly communal. And then you have some cultures that are future oriented. Western culture is future oriented. So there's always this go, hurry up and get there. But there is no there because the future is always in the future. And so this speeded up time thing is us asking God to give us our Western lusts and fulfill them. And that has to be crucified.
Or we become prodigals.
That's it. Because we are trying to get our hands on what our cultural lusts have become. And lusts are insatiable, first of all. And they aren't scriptural. They are cultural demands. And we have so little capacity to peel off our cultural lenses when we are reading our Bibles, when we are sitting in church, when we are writing sermons, when we are we are so good about knowing the culture in which scripture was written and trying to distract from that or extract from that. But we have almost zero capacity to recognize how our cultural present context is skewing what we read and our entire relationship with God. And that's why there's not, I don't like to say we need more humility in our approach to scripture. And pride is a very dangerous element of Western culture. Pride of life is the sin that easily besets Western culture. And it is the opposite of humility. And so in the Capri Sun spaces, feeling like I have to achieve this now. I'm young and I can do this now. And often setting up ministry in a way that's oppositional. And I think we need to be careful with that. Like, well, I'm going to start a church that doesn't do what these churches did. I'm going to be the pastor that isn't like these. It's maybe well-intentioned, but because it's set up as an opposition.
Correct.
It is fertile ground for mess.
Well, the mess is inevitable. What I've tried to warn people that have come to me with that mindset is the opposite of what hurts you will not heal you.
And you don't even know how to get there anyway. All you know is what you don't want, but you don't know what to do. Anyway.
The analogy that I give is that if you never got a hug from your father and your inner vow becomes, I'm going to always hug my kids, and then you hug your kids, but you're thinking about your father, it's not even a genuine hug. So you're giving what you didn't get, but where you're giving it from doesn't help you and doesn't help your child.
100%. And it will eventually run you right off the road. Yeah, because
you'll wind up in the same place anyway.
Somehow or another, you'll miss the need of that child because you're trying to give them what you needed instead of giving them what they need. I have to be focused on them to give them what they need, but when I'm trying to give them what I needed, I'm focused on me. And I will eventually miss something that child needs that's different than what I need.
That's exactly right. Anita, you wrote a book.
What are we talking about now?
Because I'm telling you this, like, I promise you, you just freed a bunch of people. Okay, you wrote a book. This is just the worst transition of all time, and I don't care.
It's all good.
Because the way this pod is going, I'm already like I'm nerding out. So you wrote a book called The Garden Within. And the reason why I'm so appreciative of this book is because I'm only going to speak of my experience. I always speak of my experience, but these people be actually thinking I'm like cherry picking and talking about people. I don't have nobody in mind when I start talking. But if the shoe fits, you have to wear it. I don't know what to tell you. If the shoe fits, you probably have to wear it. Okay, so and I remember growing up in church, and I remember how much chaos those church services were actually producing that did not allow my nervous system to be calm. The actual environment was dysregulating. They didn't even know it. And then, you know, we had deliverance, which was really about praying stuff away. And then we had altar calls. Like I remember distinctly going to an altar call for lust, because I was like, that's what I need. I
needed quite a few of those.
Yeah,
myself.
yeah. I needed Jesus to just come take my sex drive and burn it up and give it back when
he never did do it.
He didn't do that. But I remember those days, and I remember how I felt. Like I genuinely believed what I had been taught and what I'm doing. But then the more therapy I got, I realized, like, oh, good, this ain't even a demon. Like, this is just some work that I have to do around my nervous system and my trauma.
Yeah.
And for a Pentecostal like yourself,
like myself,
to have produced this type of book, I consider it to be an extravagant gift.
Wow.
To those in Pentecostal land who have had so much well-intentioned teaching never moved the needle on their trauma and their behavior. This book, to me, is the silver bullet. In the best possible way.
Yeah.
Not in a, like, the church told you wrong and this is right. It's just like, hey, I'm also Pentecostal.
Here's the rest of the story.
Here's the rest of the story. Here's some science behind it. Here's some education behind it. And here's some theology behind it. You can be free. This book, girl, I am so happy that you wrote it. But I want to know what motivated it.
Yeah, man, that's a hard. It wasn't one thing. It was a confluence of factors.
Yep.
So spiritually, grew up Pentecostal, absolutely. And talk about going through deliverance. People made appointments to come to our house for my mom and her prayer team to take them through deliverance. Talk about, that was my original basement.
Yes. Yeah.
They went to the basement. Let me tell you, but if somebody came, you knew they were going down to our basement.
That's exactly right.
And you closed the door.
Yep.
And you might hear some demons talking.
Absolutely, for
and
sure.
We knew how to get
Manifesting,
the holy oil.
that's right.
Rub it on the door.
Yep.
I knew how to tell those demons to go wander in a dry place.
That's right.
So they didn't stay with me. Like, we understood that. So I grew up in an incredibly spiritually active environment.
Yeah, for sure.
And I still hold all of those beliefs.
Yep.
We don't wrestle with flesh and blood.
Right.
All of this
Yeah.
is for real.
Absolutely.
But when my sister's mental illness symptoms exceeded the tools that we had, confusion came next, right? So
because you've done it.
We've done it all.
We've done it all.
And she's spiraling. We've done it all. And she is trying to kill us because the voices told her to. By the grace of God, I'm not a memory on the front page of a local newspaper.
Yeah, for sure.
Because a young woman killed her mother, her grandmother, and her sister. On that day.
Yeah.
And so when things exceed that, and so watching my mom's despair about, I just don't understand. We're casting out demons, and they are actually being cast out, but something is not going right in this place. And all of the narratives that we spin to try to understand what we don't understand, which changes how we see God. So there's a challenge. That was part of it. I wanted the answer. God, how did this happen? You know, when I finally really gave my life to God, because I was pretty mad at him. So we had a run, right?
I feel you.
But when I was 19, he came and got me, and I so appreciate that. And I found out that I needed God more than I needed the answer to my questions, which is how I got saved at all. Because I was mad with God, and I was like, I got some questions. I need you to answer these questions. But he met me in a place where I was in such deep pain, and the peace approached me in a way I had not experienced it before. And I realized I needed him more than I needed my answers. And so I gave him myself. And then he messed around and gave me some answers.
Ooh.
So, yeah.
Ain't that just like him?
Just like him.
Seek ye first.
That's what he say.
Jeez.
And he messed around and gave me some answers. And so that inspired it. There was a point where I recognized that the question needed to stop being, God, help me explain illness through the scripture, to help me explain wellness. That we don't even, how were we created to function in the first place?
Right.
Because if you have a glass and you drop it and there's glass shards all over the floor, and then you get somebody and come in and say, pick up these pieces and put this thing back together, but they didn't see it before it was broken. And so we are trying to heal to be what? Like, what is the original pattern that we were created in? Then how did that break? And then how do we heal? So the question began, how were we made in the first place? Because a lot of times we're trying to heal, and our definition of healing is to be out of pain. And since none of us will ever live an absolutely pain-free life, then what is healing? So I was, looking at that. And then, of course, I've been a therapist for almost 20 years at this point as I'm writing. But so all of these things are coming together. Go ahead.
Oh, Jesus, Lord have mercy. All right, so here's what's in my head, Anita, and it's just wearing me out. I'm remembering, as you're saying this, I'm remembering all the people I've encountered and the places I've been, specifically churches, that were pieced together, and it just looked like a spectacle.
We don't know what it was originally meant to be. And not everything is for everybody. But that's another conversation. So I'm looking at wellness. So church was a positive experience for me growing up, and I think that was very helpful.
Me too.
I don't have church trauma, stuff was so crazy at my house. I was happy to go to church, school, or anywhere else, right? Because with my sister's illness, my parents, we don't know she has an illness, or we think she's just rebellious. There was a lot going on, right?
Yep.
And so church was a special place for me. My mom is 80 years old. Phenomenal preacher, preached the roof off of a place to burn the place down, preaching up a storm. And I was traveling with her as a little kid. So I loved watching my mom preach. So I'm being empowered, and all it was such a positive experience for me. So I didn't have issues with it. But it is true that when we don't understand something, we will literally demonize it. That must be the devil. And then when we get an explanation and we no longer believe it's the devil, we think it has no spiritual component. And so that was one of the challenges with mental health and illness. It's like, once we realize mental illness is not a demon, it may be something biological. And so that doesn't mean it's not spiritual. He created us.
Right.
So in some ways, everything is spiritual.
Yeah,
so I wasn't willing to let go of spirit.
Yeah, that's good.
And exchange it for academic explanation, exchange it for biological explanation, because if he made us, then he must still have some information. So I believe that the Bible had more to say than we believe that it had to say about mental illness and mental health.
Yep.
So now I'm looking, God, how did you make me? How did you create us? How were we supposed to function? Spirit, heart, mind, body. How were those things supposed to work together? How did they get broken? How do we put them back together? So that's how the book really became about wellness and not about illness. And that was super important to me.
All right. So this is, you're confirming something for me. And we may have talked about this offline at some point. when I am trying through what I do and what I feel like my purpose is, I want people to get back to Genesis 2. That's what I'm trying to get back to.
We only had 2 chapters.
Right.
And then everything.
I really,
Right.
I low key wish that Tolkien had wrote Genesis instead of Moses.
Listen.
Because I think like we wouldn't have gotten to the fall of man until maybe chapter 11, 12, or 13. Because Tolkien would have still been describing like
out.
how lush the vegetation was, and maybe would have gave us some more elaboration on Adam and Eve's interactions and all that kind of stuff. You're right. We only had 2 chapters, but there's something about the last verse and those last words in chapter 2, at the second chapter, that made me go, we can't be just trying to stop sinning. Like our goal can't be we shouldn't have done what we did in Genesis 3. That can't be the goal. So my goal is I'm trying to get everybody back to the last verse in chapter 2. And they were naked
And unashamed.
That was bliss.
Bliss. The garden was bliss.
The garden was bliss.
Everything.
Nakedness was bliss. Nudity was bliss. Sex and sexuality was bliss. All the things were bliss. Yeah. And it only becomes corrupted in Genesis 3. So why would I want to be enamored with stopping sinning? But I'm still not unashamed.
What do I want to start doing? And that's the thing. Like, am I healed just because I'm out of pain? Or is there something more?
That's good.
How does wellness continue to expand? Yes. How do I become the best version of me and then become more than I was capable of being?
Yes.
How do I just keep,
we're
working our way back to the original thing.
The original
100%.
thing.
And that naked and unashamed was literal, it was physical, but I believe it was also emotional.
For
that
sure.
openness, that
absolutely.
empathy, that vulnerability, that connection. And that's what keeps us away from each other. And so we just have those couple of chapters, but there's plenty of information there, right? If my Bible is sufficient, then there has to be the information there that I need. So when I was a graduate student, I was working, I was also studying the book of Romans, and it was one of those moments that everything came together. Romans 1:20, that which may be known of God is clearly seen, being understood by the things that he made, even his eternal power and Godhead. And I was like, what? Where's this verse been? I should have heard 100 sermons on this verse by now. And I don't remember hearing one. I was like, has this been here the whole time? The things that he made? So I was like, Genesis 1, baby. I went back to read about what he made. And then I was taking a biology class and God timed it for that. Saw a picture of a neuron. It looked like a plant. Romans 1:20 said he made stuff on purpose to teach us about who he was. So why would he make a plant and a neuron look alike? If he had not embedded a lesson plan about human behavior in creation. So I started studying plants. He put something we could see to teach us about something we couldn't see, which was happening on the inside of us. And he had done that up front, knowing that it would be thousands of years before we were freely looking at neurons under microscopes. He put it in on that day. So just like Eve left the garden with the little girl in the room with her sister.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Whose birthday was yesterday. She would have been 55 years old yesterday, but she died in 2016. That the little girl, her little sister, who was hiding under the covers, being traumatized by her screams, but she sees these demonic hallucinations. That little girl would grow up with this question: God, you created us. This Bible has to be the definitive book on human behavior at every level. My graduate school professors told me it could not be true. Christians, the Bible's not for that. The Bible's not for biology. The Bible doesn't have this information. You're misusing the Bible. I mean, they were just short of accusing me of blasphemy. And I'm like, I don't care what you say. I had one professor ask me, so you believe the Bible gives you a theory of human behavior? Yes. You believe the Bible gives you a theory of personality? Yes. Do you believe the Bible has a theory of mathematics? Yes. Do you believe the Bible has a theory of building construction? Yes. And I said, let me interrupt you. No matter what you ask me, if the Bible has it, I'm going to say yes. Now, if God never gives me the revelation to see it, that don't mean it's not there. So I believe this. I believed it. And he showed it to me. He gave me the conviction and he showed it to me. And so on the day he made us human beings, on day 6 of creation, he had already made the model of our internal function on day 3 with the plants. And he had already planted the answer to my question before I was even. Baby, there is no question. There's no thing you need that God has not already supplied. When it will come, I don't know. Mm-hmm. But man, when I saw that neuron looking like a plant, looking at Romans 1:20, realizing all of this work, like every time some life challenge bumps up against my faith, bumps up against my hope, and I just stop and remember that.
Yeah.
That my God is the creator. And that is a God we haven't known. We know Jireh and Rapha, but the creator who actually made every single thing that I need. This book is about the creator. Mm-hmm. And it is the creator's work in a particular area. Yep. But I wanted people to know the creator.
Yeah.
He is amazing.
Yeah.
And so I saw that neuron, I saw that plant, and I started studying gardens all through scripture. And so as people walk through this book, it's 3 things they're going to see: Bible, botany, biology. You're going to get a scripture.
Come through alliteration.
You're going to learn, hey, I'm still a black woman. You're going to learn something about a garden that is true, and you're going to see it in our biology. That's a data approach called triangulation. Mm-hmm. In science, when you can't prove something with numbers, measurement numbers, then we have to prove it another way. We call that qualitative research. Mm-hmm. Quantitative research is numbers. Mm-hmm. We have the numbers. You measure it, that's it. We can't argue. But qualitative research, we're looking for the qualities of a thing. Mm-hmm. One of the ways that we affirm that when we don't have numbers is to find the same data showing up in 3 completely different places. We call that triangulation, and it is a very powerful proof of data. So there's nothing in this book that does not echo in biology, Bible, botany. When we see it in all these places, and then we realize that one creator is responsible for all of them. It does give us this insight. It gives us this confidence, understanding how we were made to function. And the fact that our emotional lives are at the center of that, talk about upsetting something. We thought our mind was at the center. But it turns out our heart and our emotions are at the center of how God created us. And that's why we haven't been able to get right, because we've been trying to put the thing back together without realizing that we needed to be putting heart at the center, not mind at the center. So we have been misassembling our parts, because the Bible puts the heart at the center. It says that we are a garden, and the heart is the soil. And so nothing in the garden can exceed the health of the soil. And nothing in your life can exceed the health of your emotional well-being. Whether you're aware of your emotions, feel them, talk about them, hate them, love them, nothing in your life can exceed the quality of your emotional well-being. Your spiritual life, your mental life, and your physical, biological life are all planted and growing from the soil of your heart. And that is massive, especially in church, where we're like, spirit is center, spirit is center. The spirit is the seed. And of course, the seed is everything, because what grows from there, but not until it's planted.
That's right.
In the soil.
In the soil. Okay. I can promise you with my right hand to God that I have heard everything that you have just said. And I need to stop and recognize little Anita.
Thank you.
Who loved her sister so much that she lockjawed a question until she got an answer.
For her.
For her.
For me and my
for
trauma.
You.
And for my children.
And for your children.
And that part.
Yep.
For my babies.
Yep.
For my daughter.
Yep.
For my son. Because first it was fear. What if one of my kids is ill? Mm-hmm. What we'll do? Mm-hmm. It was fear about what kind of parent I could possibly be. Mm-hmm. because of all of the narratives that we wrote in an attempt to explain what we didn't understand. Some of the narratives were parenting is just hard. You know, my mom felt like maybe I just don't have the parts to be a good mom, and that's why she's off. So then I worried that I wouldn't have the parts to be a good mom. So I brought that fear into my parenting, you know, which meant as a parent, I have no control over how my kids turn out no matter what I do. So that made me scared of my kids, you know, like what power do I have? What power don't I have? I mean, it was just, I needed. I needed answers. I did.
And I think I'm just celebrating the tenacity because I think people just give up too easy. See, I want it to be I get very passionate about this, and so my emo might be bursting forth because I feel it like right on the tip.
Oh yeah, we already crying around here.
It's like already behind my eyes. But because I wanted to be a homicide detective that's what I went to school for. I studied administration of justice. Like from 4 years old, that's what I wanted to do with my life. And there is something in me, I cannot give up on stuff easy. And I'm not talking about stuff you can't control, but I'm talking about like, I believe him and I trust him. And I place my faith in him, and I will bug him. I believe the squeaky wheel gets greased. Like, you know what I mean? I believe in that. And so there is something in me that when I feel like there, even if at an intrinsic level, like I can't verbally say like, I know God has me on this path and I know he's telling me, but there's just something in me that can't let it go. And I know it's outside of me that is coming from, but I feel like it's God, but I can't articulate it, and I just keep going. And then when I tell you, when I wind up getting the revelation after that, it is a treasure that no one can take away from me. No. I will fight you over it. I heard it in you when the lady was asking you all these questions. It don't matter what you ask me,
It don't matter.
When I tell you I found this, it's found with a T. There's some stuff that's just, it ain't found. It's found.
I found it.
I found it. Okay? It's found it. That's what this is.
That's what this is. This is, listen, pearl of great price. Bought the whole field. This was it. This is, my life is burning down and I can only get one thing out of this burning building. I ran out with this book. I had to birth this thing. But here's an important point. Answers don't heal you. These answers didn't heal me. God healed me. Because otherwise they would have just, God healed me. A lot of times we think an answer will heal us. It's not in the answer. God had already healed my heart from the loss. I had grieved what it meant to been supposed to have a sister, but didn't really get to have a sister, and hated her for years because of the illness that I didn't understand. Like he had already healed my heart. So when he spoke the word that was my answer, that seed fell on ground that was fertile for it. So it wasn't about me anymore. At that point, it was about other families. It was about how God is seen, known, and understood. It was about him being presented for the incredible God that he is, who created you incredibly, and he has a path for healing for you. It wasn't about being right, and it wasn't about God finally telling me why he let this bad thing happen to me. It wasn't about any of those things. It was just about glorifying him.
Anita, I can hear in the spirit. This doesn't happen to me often. I can hear in the spirit people screaming in their souls, I need answers.
I need healing.
You need healing.
And we have to be willing to be healed instead of answered. 100%. And I've said that on several occasions, and I say it again today. We have to be willing to be healed instead of answered. That was what started my real walk with him, was when I realized I needed God more than I needed the answers. Because we think the answer is going to make the pain stop, but they rarely do.
I had a experience as I was a associate campus pastor at Gateway, And it was Mother's Day. And, so they had all the mothers stand up and they were honoring them. So after the service, I went to like the meet and greet area. Young lady walked up to me, tears in her eyes. And she goes, I hate Mother's Day. And I hate the way you all celebrate mothers on Mother's Day because it compounds the feeling and emotions I have.
Yeah.
All I've ever wanted to do is be married. All I've ever wanted to do is be a mother. And it's the one prayer I've asked God, and it's the one prayer he hasn't answered. And so this day is very painful for me. There's tears streaming down her face. And as she's talking to me, Anita, the Holy Spirit tells me to tell her something. He tells me to tell her 2 words. And when I hear the words he tells me to tell her, I told the Holy Spirit, I'm not telling her that. Like, I'm not telling her. Like, there's no way you're going to get me to tell her that. And he goes, tell her. I said, there's no way. I could be smacked in the face. I could be kneed in the testicles. Like,
not doing it.
I'm not doing this. And he will not get off of me on this. Tell her. And I'm like, no, tell her. He doesn't. There's about 4 minutes. While I'm having this exchange with her, the Holy Ghost is just tapping.
Right. Oh, I know that feeling.
You know what I'm saying?
It happens in like lightning speed.
Yeah,
You've had
exactly.
this whole conversation.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. And so I finally said, I'm so heartbroken for you. And I hate that this service brought up this emotion. I said, I felt like the Holy Spirit gave me a word for you, but you're not going to like, I know you're not going to like what he told me. And she was like, okay. And I said, you're really not going to like what he told me. I promise you.
And you was also like, you might not like me.
I'm trying. Right, exactly.
Right.
I was like, but I feel like the Holy Spirit told me to tell you. She said, then tell me. I said, as you were talking, I feel like the Holy Spirit gave me 2 words for you. Drop it.
Wow.
She said, what?
I know she did. And
obviously you're afraid to be obedient, but once you're obedient, that's when the boldness comes.
Right.
So I said, drop it. And it was Tim. Then she said, what? And I said, drop it. In her face. You could tell, like, all of these emotions washed over her in, like, you know what I mean? 10 seconds, like disbelief, anger, kind of a what the hell? Like, and then she just said, drop it. Drop it? Drop it. Okay. And it was like this whole thing lifted off of her. Like, visibly, I could see this thing lift off her face. And she said, okay, thank you. And gave me a hug and walked off.
And that was that.
As you were talking, that's the only thing that came to me. Because what the Lord was saying was, you want an answer
and
that I'm not interested in giving you.
And that won't either you can't comprehend or that just won't be good enough. There's no answer good enough for why my mother, why my father, sister, husband, brother, child, why. There is no answer good enough for the capital WHY.
There isn't.
There's no answer good enough.
Yeah,
and so then we're going to be arguing about that.
That's exactly
it's
right.
Too much stuff.
Yeah, absolutely correct.
And if you were suddenly not in pain, you wouldn't be asking about the answer. Because you think the answer will resolve the pain, but the pain is actually the need. So when the Bible says, come boldly before the throne of grace in time of need, like your need, you're asking for the answer because you believe it will meet your need, which is to get out of pain. But if you just go bring your need, I'm in pain. I'm lonely. I'm grieving. I'm scared. That's the need. We pray for the thing we think will meet the need. Husband, child, job, move, house, whatever, because then I will feel differently.
Yeah.
But it's really, that's not the need. You're asking for the solution in your mind to the need.
Yep.
And Jesus kind of did this in Gethsemane. It was this most human moment. Let this cup pass from me.
Facts.
It was this
Facts.com.
most human moment.
Yep.
And people struggle with that moment because it's like, well, what did Jesus mean? Did he know? He not know? Like, how would he be asking? He was wearing a human body, which meant he had a human brain, not a mind, but brain. I mean, all this stuff is happening in his nervous system. It's going berserk. And he's feeling the emotion of fear at crazy levels. And what would meet the need? What would solve the fear? Let this cup pass from me.
Right. No, it wouldn't.
And so, we'll take care of the fear, right?
Yeah,
but then that would replace it with another feeling. Now I'm not doing your will, which he didn't want to do, which he was like, if your will, because that would feel horrible too. So I know that would feel worse. So what feeling are we thinking? And Paul writes that Jesus was heard in that he feared.
That's right.
Every single place in Scripture, when someone has been heard, they got the answer. There's no place in Scripture where it says, and he was heard and she was heard, and they did not receive what they prayed for. They did not receive what they needed. So how was he heard and still crucified? He was heard in that he feared. Now it was like, oh, well, that's reverence, that's awe, but that word also means terror, actual emotion of fear. And so an angel was sent to be with him, to strengthen him. The angel ministered to his fear. He was heard in that he feared. And once the fear was healed, he stood up and walked out of that garden powerful. He still got crucified. He was asking for the thing he thought would meet the need, but God went straight to the need. He was heard.
And in being heard, the angel coming to strengthen gave him containment.
Comfort.
And that's all he needed.
Connection. He needed not to be alone in the moment.
There.
But he had company.
I'm coming to get you out.
No, but I'm coming to be in it with you.
Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah are not delivered from the fire. They're delivered through it.
That's it.
I believe in 2 Corinthians chapter number 12, the reason why Jesus himself responds to Paul after he prayed 3 times for the thorn to be removed, and it's not, is because Jesus is the only person that can identify with Paul.
Wait, he prayed 3 times and then Jesus showed up for round 4? Sorry, y'all, that's offline conversation right there.
Absolutely. Because there's 3.
There's 3 and then 4. And then 4. Exactly.
So
3 men in the fire. Then 4.
Jesus knew.
Yeah.
I already know this. I prayed 3 times. And it didn't go away. So, Paul, let me come tell you, my grace is sufficient.
I found out.
Because I know this. I don't think an angel could have came and verily, verily, I say unto you, the Lord has said, no. Mm-mm. Jesus said, I'll answer him myself.
I got him because I've been there.
So Paul took the thorn in his flesh off the prayer list.
He did.
He said, y'all ain't got to pray about this no more. Are you healed? No.
No, his grace.
Yeah. Therefore, I glory in my weaknesses.
Because it wasn't the thorn.
That's right.
It was the experience that the thorn was producing.
That's exactly correct.
Jesus needed, And so if we come to him with our pain, instead of believing him for what we believe will solve the way we feel and just bring our pain, but we don't even often name our pain, recognize our pain. So we're not praying about just the pain, but I want people to do that. I want us to come, Hebrews 4:15, we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the feelings of our infirmities. That word infirmities mean human weakness. So these are most painful emotions. And I don't say negative. I never say negative or positive emotions, only painful and pleasurable. Because we don't have enough wisdom to say what's bad. We just know it hurts. But later we might look back and be like, thank you, God, for that painful season. So I don't have enough wisdom to know what's good or bad, right? That's the 40 chapters of wrestling in Job, them trying to figure out how to explain what's happened in a way that's going to work for them. I don't have enough wisdom. I don't like saying things like that. Believe me, I don't say it all loud. I don't want God to test me. Nothing. I'm just saying.
I ain't saying none of that.
Right. I'm not saying.
I'm gonna just live life. And
I'm saying that humbly
comes.
with the few things I've survived. Not asking God to give me an extra high level test, but I can't call it bad or good. But sometimes it's very painful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so we have not a high priest who cannot be touched by the feelings of our infirmities. Those feelings are painful.
Yep.
He was tempted in every way, yet without sin. So that means no feeling can be a sin. If Jesus felt everything we feel, then no emotion can be a sin.
Correct.
And then he says, because of that, he's sitting up there and we can approach him with our needs.
That's right.
Boldly.
Yeah.
We don't like to be needy, much
Correct.
less boldly
Yeah.
needy.
Yeah, that's true.
Boldly needy.
Yeah,
We don't want to be needy,
yeah.
but he's saying boldly before the throne of grace in your time of need.
Yeah.
None of us feel bold when we're needy.
Yeah, for sure.
But God says, that's your moment. And
Yeah.
so, God, I'm scared to death. I'm grieving. I'm
Mm-hmm.
lonely. I'm freaking out. I'm so sad. I'm so, that hasn't been our prayer list. This is the thing that I think will help me. So we ask for that. Give me the answer. Give me the person. Give me the relationship. Rescue me. Don't let this get lost. Don't let this happen. Don't let that happen. And we're just trying to barricade against the things we don't want to feel, but just take the feeling. Jesus was heard in that he feared. His Father heard what he was really saying. I'm scared. And he was ministered to in that place.
All right, so now we're dealing with some very personal things.
Oh, for sure.
Because that was one of my big things that I understood about myself and my own trauma is that I wanted to feel something different than what I felt.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I wound up just trying to either distract myself or numb myself from feeling the pain I was feeling.
Right.
As opposed to feeling it.
Feeling it. Talking to God
Just
about it.
feeling it.
Going to therapy, doing the things, learning how to be present with the pain. All that. Personal for me too. Been there. Personal for me too. Been there. Distracted away.
Yes.
Addicted away.
Yeah.
Been there.
Yeah.
Been there. You know, I have we don't even go on my whole sexual trauma thread.
Yeah.
From my childhood on up.
Yeah.
And so I used sex as a way to not feel that kind of pain.
Yeah.
And to regulate my body and my nervous system. And, you know, you're just trying anything because we believe this fundamental lie, I must not be in pain. Yeah, so that's the first problem. That's the first problem. I must not be in pain. I must not be in pain. And if pain is present, please tell me how to get out. And one of the things that was hard about writing, as I pushed through writing this book, and wonderful publishers, I love my team, but and I don't say this in any arrogance, but the book is different. It's different. It's a different approach.
Yeah, I understood.
And one of the things that, you know, the industry will want is a self-help book, which I told them it's not a self-help book. It's a self-understanding book. But it's like, that's okay, good. So now what do they do? Can you give like 3 points at the end of the chapter? How do people deal with getting out of pain? And I'm like, but that's not.
That's not what we're doing here.
That's not what we're doing here.
We're not doing that here.
But people aren't going to want to buy a book that doesn't. I was like, just stay with me in the Holy Ghost. God's going to get it put together. But we do, our emotional well-being is partially contingent on our relationship with pain. And many of us have an unhealthy relationship with pain, which is that I must not be in pain, or if pain is present, it must be solved as quickly as possible and removed. I cannot tolerate it. I cannot be in its presence. If I am in its presence, if I'm experiencing pain, I've done something wrong. Someone else has done something wrong. There's so many lies we have around.
All right, this is
just the experience of pain itself. And don't add the stories we start telling about God in it. God is using it. God did it. God wants to get this is saying. So there's purpose. We're trying to get purpose out of pain before the pain even passes. We're just trying to all the things. This is one of the aspects of being fallen human beings, fear in particular. There was sadness and anger. There's sadness and anger in the heavenlies. God experiences those emotions. He doesn't experience fear, though, in the heavenlies. So that's uniquely human. So there's just some things that are part of our human condition. And I teach that emotional pain especially represents need. And so but let me go back to what I was saying. Our relationship with pain. When pain arrives in some way, I'm sad, I'm afraid, I'm losing something, I'm grieving. Like, what do I believe about that in this moment? How fast I have to get out of here. Something's wrong. I've done something wrong. God's done something. I don't know. We really got to unpack all our narratives about pain, because not having a healthy relationship with pain will undermine your the quality of your entire life.
So if I'm going down the wrong road with this, please just say, boy, jump out that car now. Again, I see everything in pictures. And so I'm looking at somebody that it's leg day for them. Okay, it's leg day for them. They have an excruciatingly, heavy amount of pain on their back. And they're trying to get 4 reps out. Mm-hmm. And in between reps 2 and 3, because of the strain, the physical exertion, even the sounds coming out of this individual that's clearly putting themselves in this position to get stronger.
Right.
Someone tries to come rescue them from this pain.
Right.
This pain is self-induced. This pain is meant to help grow muscles. Mm-hmm. It's meant to help expand capacity. It is meant to do all these things, but someone else is so uncomfortable with the pain that this person is comfortable with that they feel like they must rescue that person because it looks like it hurts.
Yeah. No, I love that example. Now I'm going to mess with you. I'm going to mess you up. So this can produce increased capacity. It can produce strength, and it may. Was it meant to do that? Or was it meant to address your self-esteem issues? Or was it meant to show off? I don't know what it was meant to do. You may get stronger, but why? So I want to just add intention is always critical, right? Why are we doing this? Is it wise? Am I doing it at the right pace? Because there's a difference between being in pain and being injured.
Correct.
So am I about to injure myself because I'm trying to do something for the wrong reason? So there's all these questions around it, right? So I want people to just think about all of those things. And you said another great thing, which is someone else is trying to rescue, and that we don't always have tolerance for emotional pain, not only in our own lives, but in other people's lives. So we don't want to see anybody hurting, but sometimes.
That's only, so
I love that. I just wanted to add that intention part.
No, I really appreciate that because I'm in a situation now, as you know, with my daddy, and there are some, the majority of the people that are in my life have very high emotional IQs.
Okay.
There's a few people.
Majority.
I'm not batting 1,000 in that circle. But there's certain people that I say something to them about my dad, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no," and I'm like,
"God's gonna do something different," and you're just like, "Yeah." And I said this to you when you shared with me, my daddy's going home.
Yeah.
And I was like, that takes an incredible amount of emotional maturity.
Yeah. For
you to be able to hear that from God.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
And I didn't say spiritual maturity.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got some people that are like if I say, "How's your dad?" "Oh, he's doing good today." "Amen, praise God." Like, amen. We're continuing to pray. And I'm like,
bruh, we call that spiritual bypassing. When we utilize our spiritual tools and disciplines to avoid the emotional pain of a situation, we try to spiritually bypass. Now, I didn't coin that term. It was coined by a Buddhist psychologist. He observed this in his Buddhist community. It's not a Christian phenomena.
Yep.
But human beings so desperately want to not experience pain, they will try to utilize their spiritual tools and disciplines to get around it. So when you say something emotional, they respond spiritual.
Yes.
If anyone's ever wondered, if you think you might have been guilty, if someone said something to you from an emotional pain place and you responded to spirit words instead of emotion words, you're bypassing. Yeah. You don't want to, you're like, no, I'm just going to pray about it. I'm just going to, you know what I mean? Listen, spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
When Miles died in 2004, all I got was spiritually bypassed.
Yeah. That's all we knew how to do.
Yeah. It was, and I remember my takeaway from that was, I don't want anyone that goes through this to feel that. And so I need to go dig into what bothered me most about what they said.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I did not know it was spiritual bypassing, but I know how it felt.
Yeah. And people who are grieving super know.
Yeah. And I just felt missed.
Yeah.
I just felt like, so you're just going to completely dismiss how I feel? Like,
right.
At least he's in heaven. I want him back. Like I didn't want him in heaven right now. Like, at least is in heaven is so trite and so dismissive and so, the most offensive thing during that time for me was there's a double anointing that's about to come on your life as a result of what, and I just thought to myself, I didn't ask for a double.
No thanks.
I was happy with
right.
whatever.
God had to kill my brother to give me a double. Right. It's like, follow this logic to the end, shall we?
Do you hear you?
Do you hear yourself?
But they're not even comfortable with silence.
Right.
Right. You know what I mean?
Silence.
Yeah. They can't handle silence.
Listen, that's one of the things that we're trained on as therapists, the use of silence.
That's right.
Be quiet.
It's powerful.
Be quiet.
It's powerful.
And some of us won't let God get a word in edgewise
to
us or other people.
Yes.
And we also underestimate the power of our presence, just being with people, just sitting still, just being there. I'm with you. I'm willing to sit with you. I don't have to say anything all the time. Sometimes God will speak to someone while the emotional comfort you bring someone just sitting next to them may bring their pain level down enough for them to actually, God may say something in that moment, but the soil of the heart, y'all throwing seeds on a heart that is not ready for that at the moment. So it's back to the garden. Your seeds may be good, but the soil is not ready. It's not the season to plant that.
So the girl, Lord have mercy. I just feel like everything you say deserves.
And remind me to go back to the pain thing because I wanted to give you another example.
I want it now.
Okay. Because I'm a therapist, but I'm a trauma therapist.
Yep.
Spent the first several years of my work strictly with adult survivors of child sexual abuse. Still work with trauma primarily. I work with trauma primarily. And someone asked me recently, like, how do I deal with that? Listening to such heavy stories, go home and rest and things like that. And two things. One, competence. I'm good at my job.
Yep.
So that helps me to not carry that because I know that this process is going to work out.
Yep.
But I look at what I do as midwifing. Birth is uncomfortable. Birth is uncomfortable. And you've never seen a midwife standing next to a woman who's having a healthy birth, everything's safe and working, but she is in pain.
That's
and the midwife is just weeping because this woman's contractions.
No,
you never see that.
That's not happening.
Because he recognizes the normal range in which pain is part of the process. And she's there to oversee the process. And so, that's what I do in trauma work. I'm midwifing. I'm not the source of your healing. It's within you. I'm midwifing the birth. I'm midwifing the birth. And I'm here to see, like, wait a minute, that kind of scream is a little bit different than a regular, let me check, maybe something's wrong, there's a higher intervention. Midwives are wonderful because they recognize the range of normal pain. And if something goes outside of that, then there's a higher intervention. But birth is an inherently painful process. But nobody's ever just like, I can't stand this. I can't stand this. And that's how I feel working through trauma with people. I got you. I got you. I know that hurts. I know this next one, this contraction, this next one, breath, but I got you. We birthing this thing, baby. We are birthing this healing. That pain doesn't scare me. It doesn't depress me. I don't go home and can't sleep about it.
Yeah.
I'm excited.
You're excited about it.
About it.
And you're self-differentiated.
Yes.
Like this is your pain.
This is your pain, but it's also your birth.
It is your birth.
And it won't be my birth.
That's exactly
I don't
right.
own the healing
That's exactly
that you
right.
birthed.
Yeah, you did all this. I'm here for it.
I love being here for it. I love being part of it, but I don't own the healing that you birthed. And I think this is a challenge in our lives. I think it's a challenge in ministry, therapy. If the Bible says one plants, one waters, the increase is God's. If I take credit for the increase, rather than recognizing I'm just the planter or the waterer, if I take credit for the increase that I happen to be present for after other people have planted and watered before me, and I'm the last one and I happen to be present for the increase, if I take credit for the increase instead of it being God's, then I must also take credit for the failures.
Are you serious right now?
I plant, I water. The increase is God's. And if I don't get to witness the increase, if I happen to be present at one of the moments of failure that will be a part of this person's larger story when they get to the increase, I have to be willing to be a memory in their journey. Down the line, when God brings the increase and they stop and go, oh my gosh, this person sowed this seed. I didn't see they were watering. Oh, I remember Dr. Anita or Minister Anita said this to me 10 years ago. That's fine. That's my role in that journey. We are all planters and waterers, but God gives us the opportunity to witness increase enough to keep our faith and our hope alive that it happens. But I can't own that person's increase as my success. Or else I must own all the failures too. And none of that is healthy for me.
Okay, I believe you just simultaneously delivered about, this is an arbitrary number, I'm just going with it, about 2,200 people just got delivered off of hearing you say that right now. And I think about 20,000 people were indicted. Because again, in particular, the way you talk gives me a lot of imagery. And I just saw a bunch of baby thieves.
This is my baby. And listen,
I helped you birth it. That baby belongs to me.
I don't even get to own the increase in my biological children's adult lives. My 26-year-old son and my 21-year-old daughter, they are God's children. And compared to him, and I'm a good mom, compared to him, I'm evil. The Bible says if you being evil,
know how to give
good gifts to your children, how much more?
Yeah.
So I'm a good mom, but compared to his goodness, I look bad. I'm evil compared to him.
Yeah, for sure.
And they are his children.
Yeah.
And as adults, I am planting and watering, but I don't even get to take credit for the increase in my biological children's lives as they are walking out their adulthood.
Anita, I literally think there's a lot of spiritual fathers and mothers that are indicted by what you're saying right now.
Don't get me going.
Do it. Do it. I'm instigating it. Do it. Do it. Do it now.
I have been referred to, and there are people in this world who would refer to me as their spiritual mom. But I am pivoting away from that language very intentionally. I just had a conversation with a young woman last week who asked me to be her spiritual mom. And I was like, no. But what I will do.
That's where I am now.
Because this young woman, and you know what? When you know better, you do better.
Yeah, absolutely correct. Yeah, because this is the nomenclature that we have.
This is especially in the black church, because we're family people.
That's right.
So
that's
this
exactly
is no
right.
indictment.
No.
Have used the term.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the things
for
myself.
Sure. Yep.
But you learn better, you do better.
Yep.
This young woman grew up. Mom had a lot of issues. She didn't have a healthy relationship with her mom. And so I'm listening to her and I'm saying, once we put the word mother on it, it activates all of that emotional
That's absolutely
pain,
correct.
all of the scripts, the little girl within you who's still looking for a mother and will never find one. She can only be healed by you mothering her.
Right.
And if you put that label on me, I will fail you.
That's exactly right.
Because what that little girl needs can't be met by any human. And so you're not asking for mentorship, which I think you actually are.
Yeah,
you're asking for
right.
spiritual guidance, insight. How do I become a better communicator? How do I speak? How do I parent? And I want to give you those things. But let's not call it mother.
Absolutely correct. I will disciple you.
That's it. And
I got biblical grounds for this.
And that language is not. I didn't grow up in a church space that used the word disciple.
Yep.
It was happening.
Yeah, for sure.
But it just wasn't our language.
Yeah, for sure.
So
for sure.
we need some other word.
Yeah,
That's
for sure.
a good one.
Discipleship, mentorship, coaching. I will do all.
I'll do all the things.
Call it what you want. It's Matthew 28.
I told her I can teach you how to be a grown woman.
That I can do.
I'm a grown
woman. Yeah, yes. You don't have to censor yourself. You can say what you want to say. Yeah.
And I can teach you how to be that.
That's right. That's right.
I got you.
Then
I can teach you how to be a grown woman. I don't have to be your mom.
No.
But I can teach you how to mother your inner child.
Absolutely
I can teach you. My own biological daughter.
Yeah.
For the failures and the blips of my early motherhood before I got better at it.
Yeah.
Has some things that her inner child needs healing from, and I can't even do it for her.
For sure. Absolutely.
I'm like, baby girl, I can teach you how to reach that little girl inside you.
That's right.
And I can affirm you and affirm her, but that's still your work.
That's right. That's not on me.
We have to know our limitations.
Yeah, for sure.
And I am so committed to my children's generation being well.
Yeah.
And what I can do.
Yeah.
And what I can't do.
That's good. That's good.
Because we will get so connected to what we can't do and spin our wheels in the mud for years.
For sure. Instead of just being dope at what you can do. And then listen, I told my boys, I said, you're 15 and you're 13 now. I will be introducing you to a therapist in the next 90 days.
Get your team built.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that therapist is a teammate for you and you.
That's exactly
That's how
right.
I felt. Listen.
Yeah.
Listen, therapists have been a part of my children's lives.
Yeah, for sure.
when my kids used to live in Chicago together. When they moved to Chicago after the pandemic, I reached out to a therapist/friend in Chicago and said, I need to press pause on our friendship because you're an excellent therapist. Please take my children. Please take my children. Plus, you know me. You kind of know us already. Dynamics. Please take my children. And so she became their therapist. And our friendship communications cease. I would rather them have her because she was so good. Get your children somebody.
And it's not too early.
It's not too early.
I promise you it's not too early.
And whatever influence you have, it ain't too late.
Absolutely correct.
You know?
Oh my
and my children are doing great.
Yeah,
it's not
for sure.
that you don't have to be sick or
No.
addicted or
No.
falling apart.
No.
But this
maintenance. Give them maintenance.
And listen, take some stuff off your back as a parent.
Absolutely
like them
correct.
having a private space and
Yes.
things like that. Yes, you're going to use discernment, pick the right person. There
Yeah.
were times when I was like, okay, I think it's time for them to be with a different therapist now.
Yeah, for sure.
I got something in my spirit. We
Yep.
did a shift.
Yep.
But having that teammate.
Yeah. It's
listen,
important.
It's important.
If it takes a village, that statement is true. But you get to curate this village.
Listen.
Though. You ain't just got to let everybody in the
part,
village.
The curation.
No, curate this village.
village.
Yeah, there's a curation of the village that needs to happen.
Yes. It's so important. That's such an important way for us to do this. So I think we got there from like the spiritual parent thing. So yeah, I want to say I'm pivoting away from that in a way in the language because
It's
of
a
what we
beautiful
understand.
thing. I'm grateful. I'm
Because of
grateful
what
for
we
that.
understand
Yes,
now.
absolutely. Yeah, because I remember having multiple conversations with people that were bemoaning their relationship with their spiritual parent. And I just said, hey, this person can only take you to the last place they've been. But some of y'all need to just look at their biological kids and then ask yourself the question, what did you think they was going to be able to do for you?
Everybody got challenges.
You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
I'm like, so
let's use more specific language about what we're trying to get.
This
now we
man
understand.
This man is helping you become a better preacher. That's all he gonna give you. But get in line behind his kids, because they still waiting to have a daddy-daughter day. This joker's biological son is still waiting to go to Disneyland, and you want to jump on the plane with this nigga and go to some revival in Grand Rapids.
The glue.
No,
Wait,
girl.
I'm trying to.
I'm just saying.
Listen,
I'm just saying.
And and I'm a PK of multiple generations.
Me
It's
too.
always something going on at our house.
Absolutely.
Always.
There's always somebody in the house.
In the house, listen.
So until we have movie night, stop all these spiritual sons trying to act like they
Listen.
actually came out the first lady's womb. No, you didn't.
Listen, let me focus on these babies I got
He sees
first.
you on Sunday. You just riding in the car with him. That is not your real daddy. Nigga, you are 37. You're an armor bearer. You're not a son.
Listen, I told this young woman, I said, one of the reasons I wouldn't say mother.
You're a free employee.
You might want to call my kids and interview them. Maybe you'll talk to my biological children and they might not recommend that you ask me to be your spiritual mom. I literally said that to her. Because I grew up with people saying, oh, you're so lucky. Your mom. And I'm like, yeah, because you're not in the house when she calling me. Okay.
That part.
Because she ain't never going to call you up.
That's exactly right. I be trying to tell people, y'all be thinking.
You don't know who she is in that space.
Exactly.
Is what I'm saying.
Yes.
You. I love you, Mom.
Yes.
And
Contextually.
yeah.
Contextually.
We understand better
That's
now.
exactly right. That's exactly right. Paul had some very good, wise words when he said, you only have one father.
Listen.
And it ain't me.
So it goes.
Girl, you have blessed my whole life.
Well, we're having ourselves a good time. And we're shifting things for people,
That's what
how they raise their babies.
But okay, I'm getting tongue tied. This is why I'm so appreciative of your book, though, because it's literally shifting things for people. Like it's a literal shift.
It is. There is not a DM I get, and hear this, anyone listening, if you've ever sent me a message, I don't get to read them all, but I try to get through what I can. But thank you. Thank you for telling me. It never gets old. When I get that message that says, I fell in love with my Bible again. because of this. I took my child to therapy. My pastor dad is speaking to me again because he no longer thinks my schizophrenia is a demon. It never gets old, ever. It's every person. It's every person.
You know the connection I just made?
So just thank you. Yeah.
The connection I just made is that you not giving up on that one question wound up being thousands of people's answers.
So there's this scene in Jerry Maguire. I'm not going to cry, Roy.
Yo, that's what I just saw. You not giving up on that one question became thousands of people's answers.
And nothing makes me giddier. Nothing makes little Anita giddier. That's my dream.
Yeah.
Come true.
Yeah.
The book, yes. When I see the book on the shelf, yes. New York Times bestseller, yes.
Hey,
all the things.
Hey, just so you know
but
how close this friendship is, anytime I go to an airport, I go looking for her book. And then I take a picture of it and send it to her.
He does. And I giggle like I'm 10 every time I get a picture. Because I'm just like, oh my gosh.
We out here for real.
We really out here.
Yeah.
And I'm working on something else. Cannot wait. So, Bible study.
Yes.
Working on a workbook Bible study. First of all, if y'all have purchased a workbook for The Garden Within, it was not written by me. There's a lot of fakes out there. Be careful.
Oh my goodness. Somebody's out there with a hacker.
You about to find out.
Girl, can I tell you something? Didn't I send
the biography of Tim Ross, 51 pages. Yes.
Have y'all seen this?
Listen, people are the stuff folks will do for a buck.
Go on Amazon and look up the biography of Tim Ross. You are going to find it. It's like a cartoon drawing of me.
It's AI. It's like an AI.
Yeah, it's like
weird
a
photo.
cartoon rendering that somebody then put over a stove on high heat.
Like, are you being cooked on the cover? We're not
like,
sure. Mm-hmm.
I look like I'm kind of melting or kind of being cooked. It's a really ugly shape. And it's a biography of me.
The biography of Tim Ross.
And it's only 51 pages. Damn.
Is it 51 cents? How much do they charge?
Who?
We don't know.
It's some guy named Gigi something. And this dude wrote a book about me. He wrote my biography. I've never met this person.
You mean you guys didn't sit down and have an extensive interview? Child. Yes, there's all these
51
workbooks
pages.
out there like
I'm not even 51 years old.
Listen. A page a year. But there's still more to tell than 51 pages of the things you've been through.
What are we talking about?
Listen, people are out here trying to make a dime. Read carefully, folks. These workbooks all say, Workbook for the Garden Within by Dr. Anita Phillips. But then down somewhere else it says, by Brother Imposter so-and-so.
Brother Imposter has me weak.
He is out here making a dime. And it's not illegal, so you just got to carefully. But all that being said, it's no stress. I'm sorry for anyone who has, and I, God in all the things. But
with that said, you are writing something.
I am.
Yes.
Writing.
Yeah.
A Bible study that's going with the Garden Within, in which God led me to dive into healing generational trauma. I was sitting and I'm like, we write the Bible study. I was supposed to do it for the book, but I just wasn't comfortable with it being a rehash of the book in Bible study form.
Mm-hmm.
That wasn't enough for me.
Look at that.
Oh my God!
There's Melted Timmy.
What's the red letters up top? What does that say?
The biography.
Oh, I can't even read that word.
It just says the biography.
It's like a Star Wars. I don't know what's going on over there.
It's terrible.
It's terrible.
I believe Amazon does this to a bunch of people who don't have a properly uploaded photo. Because it's
that's not Amazon. That's that person.
Gigi Carter.
Gigi Carter has a series. All those other people.
Dude,
this is his biography series.
This dude thinks
who else has he biographized?
Is he modern day Luke writing to Theophilus?
Look at who else is on. Who else he got on there?
Zach Williams, Dave Tarnowski, Penn Holderness. Emily Morrow.
These illustrious group.
He has Sarah Jakes Roberts on here.
I know you ain't up in here with my friend trying to talk. What? Oh my gosh!
Look at this. Look at this. Child.
I am child. Is
And that
right.
book was, the Kindle edition was $10.99. It's only $3.99. The whole biography.
Well, hopefully,
because
nobody is buying it. Y'all out here.
How many? Oh my God, this one's only 23 pages. Y'all done got Sarah
Well, you're
down to
48.
20.
She's 35.
I don't understand.
A page per.
Y'all gonna stop messing with my family members.
Listen, y'all definitely.
You know what?
now.
I was cool when it was just me. Now that I
Listen.
figured out you messing with my family
right.
members.
And not that y'all can't handle yourselves, but I'm definitely that friend that gets more mad than you do when somebody do something to you. I'm that friend.
I
I'm that
may or
friend.
may not intervene with certain people.
Listen.
I may not or may not. I may or may not pull up on people.
I'm that
I
person.
can't confirm or deny.
I cannot either.
But I might.
But I'm that chick.
I might do it.
And Sarah's my girl.
I might do
and
it.
I'm that chick.
All right. So
Anyway, yeah.
generational curses.
It's coming.
I'm grateful
Yeah, we're digging in.
that you're digging into this.
Yeah, because there's a lot of misinformation, over spiritualized because of what we don't understand.
Correct.
And so, but not taking spirit out of it.
Yeah,
So, what is
yeah.
a curse? How
Yeah.
is it broken?
Yep.
But what else is maintaining this?
Absolutely
Because
correct.
with Jesus, we not under curses no more.
That's
so, but other things maintain generational trauma, secrets, our refusal to self-reflect,
Yep.
our misdirected focus. There's so many things. So
Yeah.
I want to give you all a Bible study that takes you into the garden and really empowers you to unravel generational trauma. This is going to, I pray, this is another shift.
Well, I'm man. It just seems like, and this is no pressure on you.
Yeah, no.
I don't feel like I'm putting pressure on you by saying this, but it's almost like God let 20 years pass of us hearing a certain thing and then just tapped you on the shoulder and said, "Come here, daughter. I need you to bring context to this." Not that you were sitting around waiting for it, but I can't tell you. Well, I can actually. I can tell you all the narratives I've heard on generational curses, all the teachings I've done on it. There are some people that their whole ministries have been built off breaking generational curses.
And yet, and that's no shade to anybody.
No.
personal, But
And yet it ain't broken.
here we be.
And what I love about what you're saying, because I am the client side of you, right? You've done not at the expense of your own trauma, but you have done. Your brain has gone through the intellectual rigor to understand this from a psychological point of view, a theological point of view, a biological point of view, right?
And also a trauma survivor.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
so
I've been-
not at
yeah.
the expense of it,
Right.
but integrated together.
Yeah.
Mine has just been from the client side. I've just been the for 26 years, I've been the person on the couch,
Gotcha.
sorting through my brokenness, right? And what I feel like has happened is that you have come along at this time to bring the right order, because everyone's desperately trying to be healed right now. Everybody is, right? And some people have made very well-intentioned attempts, but they fall short because the order ain't right. So I'm not mad at Jada for doing a red table. It's just that the order ain't right. So we still don't get what we want, but your intentions were good.
With all the information that people have. We have separated spirit out entirely.
Right.
Because it was overutilized or misutilized. Now
Right.
we're trying to put it out, but we
Right.
need it.
Right.
We've centered the mind.
Right.
When really the emotion and the heart needed to be centered.
That's
We've
right.
not understood that biologically we can actually pass trauma biologically.
Right, for
we
sure.
haven't understood that. And
Right.
then how do they all fit together?
Right, exactly.
Because if I don't know how it worked before it broke,
Yep.
I can't fix it.
So one again, there's a high key detective in me. Okay. So once I found out who the white man was in my family that gave us the surname, which is Scottish,
Okay.
called Ross,
Okay.
I wanted to know more. And what I found out was he married a black woman in the 1800s. Not a slave.
Wow.
Not a comfort girl.
Okay.
This Nigerian woman got off the boat that came from an illegal slave trade route that went up the Sabine River. This Nigerian woman got off the boat, and he was so smitten by her, he married her. This man was already married to a white woman. Obviously, he's Scottish. He's married to a white woman. He has 2 children. He's smitten by this African woman. He marries her, has 5 children with her. That's where we all came from. Okay.
Did he stay married to?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
And told everybody, figure it out. Right. When
stay out my business.
when the other people in the town got upset because he had 3 daughters and 2 sons, and the 3 daughters passed as white. They were very light skinned, mulattoes, but the sons were darker, and the town was kind of like, we don't like the fact that these niggers are playing in your front yard. Like, the daughters are cool, but these darkies,
we see them.
And he was like, well, he was a doctor in the area, and this is East Texas, and so it's rural, and so he's like, well, y'all can die. Like, the next time you get sick, you can die because you're mad that they're running. So he built a house for his black wife and children next door to his house, and was like, if you were mad they were playing in front of the yard, be mad that they now have a house. So this is
definitely your ancestor.
This is definitely my ancestor.
Just giving the energy.
Definitely my ancestor, okay? Definitely my ancestor. Now, with that said, I understand why I can have such a diverse
I love it.
group of people that I do life with, because this man clearly didn't care about the culture of his day to marry a black Nigerian woman.
Come on.
Who is from the Yoruba tribe, and tell the rest of the town, deal with it. So I completely understand why white people adore me. I get them. I completely understand why diversity is the only thing I can see. When I'm around too much of anything, I itch. I also understand why I was a womanizer.
I love it. Blessings and
right?
other stuff.
I understand why I think in my flesh I have the capacity to love more than one woman. I get it. I know where it comes from. It comes from that man. That man brought that into this family with no regard to how anybody else felt. So what do we see happen in the bloodline? We see over and over and over again one woman and then the next wife, trying to keep it legal and holy. But you build ministry with one, divorce her, and then you pick up the new one, and she gets the evolution of you. The other person got the abusive you or the immature you or whatever, right? So then you're like, oh, I must acknowledge that's there. Then when I'm 19 and my mom catches me watching porn, and I finally confess to her that I was sexually abused, and then she tells me she was sexually harassed by her babysitters when she was 6. My dad was sexually abused by the comic book store owner when he was 5. Then it goes, now we know.
Now we're just unraveling a sweater.
We're
start pulling the thread.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
We can look out for this now. We can look out for that now. Daddy, you already did a good job telling us about the anger that was in the family, so we don't allow that to take control. But now that we know that we can hide sexual sin.
That's it.
Now that we know how this dynamic plays out in our bodies, to your point, this came down through a bloodline.
Listen. Spiritually, we have authority, and we must utilize it. So we don't skip it. We utilize it. But then there are narratives.
That's right.
The stories that are told.
That's exactly right.
The things that are normalized.
That's exactly right.
The things that are not confessed to and
That's
not
right.
indicted properly, but presented differently.
Yep.
We have the stories. We have the patterns. We have emotional dysfunction.
That's right.
And then we also have biological leanings. And all of those areas have to be addressed at once. And so we're going to talk spirit, or we're going to talk emotion. We're going to talk thought processes and narratives and stories. And not just about our ancestors and our families, but about God. Because there are narratives about God that pass down to families too. And those contribute to some of the spiritual problems and the trauma, because we think this is what God does. One that I've shared before, my mom struggling with why my sister was going through what she was going through, because we didn't understand mental illness at that time. This is the early 80s. Like, we don't have anything. And I remember my mom was a preacher, and one of her desperate attempts to understand what was happening, the enemy is attacking me for the work that I'm doing. And so seeing what my sister was going through as an attack from the enemy on her ministry. Now, if you grew up in a certain church space, this is a very common narrative.
Very common.
This is common narrative. But what we don't hear in this narrative that's desperate to explain a pain is the self-centering.
That's exactly right.
Right?
You're still making it about you.
Right. And so not long after I really started this public mental health ministry, one of my children had a crisis, and it was so devastating for me. I pulled over my car and was mad. Because that came to me immediately. Because I'm out here doing this mental health ministry and I'm doing these things, then the enemy is attacking me through one of my children, and this is the cost of ministry. This is what it costs. And God, and I pulled over and I was like, you were willing to give up Jesus, and then maybe that was the cost to my mom. Somehow my sister was the cost. I'm not willing to pay.
Amen.
I mean, I was
for
the idea that for me to pursue what God asked me to do, one of my children is going to be.
No, absolutely.
But all of that,
yes,
that's generational
that's right.
too.
That's exactly right.
It's a narrative about who God is, and we pass it down.
That's right.
And it's how we make meaning of what's happening to us is so critical to our spiritual, emotional, mental health.
That's exactly
and so
right.
I sat there and I wept.
Yeah.
Until I had let that pain out.
Yep.
And the Holy Spirit was so gentle with me. He was just like, pull the lens back. Pull the lens back. What kind of things run in your family? What kind of thing? Like, if diabetes ran in my family all over the place, and then someone new in my family developed diabetes, I wouldn't be like, how could this happen?
Right.
Like, I recognize that there's a risk factor.
That's absolutely
here,
correct. Absolutely
and that
correct.
wouldn't have to be an attack of the enemy.
That's right.
Or, you know what I mean?
Absolutely
and so
correct.
it was just like,
and we could save a prayer.
we can use our faith energy for something else. Thank you, God, that I have the wisdom, the resources, the insight to take care of my kids in a way that my parents did not have.
That's right.
But that immediate moment of this is what it costs.
I'm not willing.
That's a perpetuation.
It is. I'm not willing to do that.
Do I have to have pain for me to have joy?
Yeah.
Does God make me walk through awful things in order to have good things? Like,
I'm not doing it.
we got to fix some of that. That's trauma too.
It is.
That's trauma too. Psalm 145 says that we should praise his works from generation to generation. That the inheritance we have as people of God is to pass on the stories of his greatness from generation to generation. That is our inheritance. Generational praise.
That's really good.
Generational trauma is the enemy of generational praise. It is telling a whole other story. We're passing down another story. That's why we have to heal it. That's why we have to heal it.
And the generational praise.
The generational praise
sounds like me sitting down with Nathan and Noah and saying, let me tell you how good God has been to your daddy.
Yes.
And let me tell you what he saved me from.
That's it.
And I want you to know that you may be presented with the same things that I was presented, and you have a choice on if you're gonna. Here's what I tell people.
And you can win.
So here's the way I've described it. Let me know if I'm saying this right or wrong, because I cannot wait to get this study guide.
I can't wait to get it out.
The way that I've described it, Anita, is generational curses and blessings present themselves to each generation as an invitation that you either accept or deny.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. But it helps to know that's where it came from.
That's what I'm saying. You're right.
We got to
exactly
know
right.
where it came from.
Why did this invitation come to my door? How did it get my address?
Right. Am I just faulty? Is this just a horrible thing?
No.
This is the only thing that runs in my mind?
Right.
Nobody,
Nope.
something's wrong with me.
Nope. I promise you it's not.
This has been a I just
Absolutely
had a conversation with my son last week about a similar thing.
Yep.
And I was just like, I'm telling you this.
Yeah.
So you are watchful.
Yep.
Wise.
Right.
And you may be the one that snuffs it out entirely.
That's exactly right.
You
That's
might be the
exactly
one
right. That's good.
that snuffs it out entirely. But for those of us who want to be the generational curse breakers,
Right.
we are going to have to free ourselves of shame
Yeah, absolutely.
and tell the stories we don't want to tell.
Yeah, you cannot break a curse and keep a secret.
Right. Because a secret will kill you. That's it. That's it. Darkness is not a real thing. It's just the absence of light. Turn the light on.
Turn on the light.
turn them on. Because
light them candles.
That's it. There's got to be light. Got to tell the story.
Story has to be told.
Got to tell the story. And that part can be so tough on us. But you got to tell the story. And you have to do it forward. A lot of times as adults, because of the unhealed inner child that's sealed within us that we haven't parented on and raised and let be healed, we are still trying to get our parents to give us what we think they did. And so we're directing our generational energy backwards. I got to get this conversation with my parents. I got to sit down with them. I need them to know. And they may or may not ever have the capacity to give you that. Right. Your first order of business, your inner child and the children in front of you.
That's exactly right.
Your sons, your daughters, your nieces, your nephews, the kids in the children's ministry, whoever you have access to in that generation.
That's really good.
Take care of your inner child because the way you treat the child within you is the way you'll treat the child in front of you. So it's really important that you don't ignore the pain of the child within you because you'll tell that child in front of you that they're okay when they're not. So deal with what's happening in here and then deal with what's happening in this generation in front of you. And maybe along the way, you may have the opportunity to reach back. Maybe you'll have a parent who has the capacity for it, who wants to do it, you're doing. But if you don't do this first, then this, then that. But we do this.
Well, see, you're helping me with the order, and it's in a 3 again. It's a 1, 2, 3. It's present, 1, 2, 3. Forward, past.
And then praise emerges.
3 and then 4. Present, forward, past.
Yeah.
Praise.
That's it.
That's it. Give me the 3 for the soil, the
seed, soil, plant, fruit. Seed, soil, plant, fruit. Seed, soil, plant, fruit. The seed becomes the plant, which produces the fruit, but without the soil. See, we look at that. Seed, plant, fruit, those 3 things. But where is it if it's not in the soil?
Yeah, the soil is us.
A plant can't be defined except where it's planted.
That's right.
That's why it's called a plant. The soil is its defining factor. If I don't know where it's planted or if it's not planted somewhere, it's dead. And a lot of times we will get a word, we'll get a spiritual seed, it's a scripture, it's a prophetic word, it's a sermon, and we will try and get that thing to grow outside of the ground. Like that middle school science class.
That's right.
It's a paper towel.
You took the words out of my head.
We put it in a paper towel and we watching it grow. But eventually, if it doesn't get planted in the soil, it will die. You cannot grow a tree in a plastic cup and a paper towel.
That's exactly right.
And we try and keep our spiritual life separated from what's happening in our emotional lives. You can't do it. You have to actually plant it in your heart. You cannot. Your spiritual life cannot be separated from your emotional life.
This is like my brain is splitting into it feels like 92 different directions because here's what I can tell you as a believer in Jesus Christ. I think I've just known this intrinsically, and your explanation right now is just giving me the biggest aha moment of all time. The seed of God's word sown into the soil. I have sat in church services and heard sermons come out of the mouths of people who had great oratorical ability. And I've been sitting there going, what is that? How come that thing don't feel right? That's the right word. But it got into your soil.
And the fruit that they're handing. Because what's inside the fruit?
The soil.
The seed and the soil.
That's right.
So it's the seed that started it, but it's also whatever was in the soil.
And I've just heard sermons that have come out of the
and you're
soil of unresolved trauma and issues. And I'm like, that is the word, but your application.
Listen, I started becoming a therapist on the pew as a child because I was raised by preachers.
Right.
And I would know what happened at our house. And I could hear in some of the things that my parents taught, I could hear their victories, but sometimes I could hear their in-process struggles too. And I learned to sift.
Yep.
And so I would hear other preachers and think, I wonder what's happening at their house. I'm 13, child. But it was just the gifts were already working in me. And so I learned, I was becoming a therapist on the pew, how we pull the word into our pain and make it, put it together and serve it to somebody. Sometimes it's cooked, sometimes it's not cooked enough, and that's why we get sick.
Absolutely correct.
I tell people, do not serve your uncooked stuff.
That's
if
good.
I'm going through something,
that's right.
You will not hear about it, not because I'm trying to hide it,
nope.
but because I can't offer it to you in any beneficial way. And so if I give you half-cooked food, it's going to make you sick. I'm still baking this trial. I'm still baking in this tribulation. I don't have the outcome that's going to benefit you yet, so I'm not serving it. This is not about not being transparent. This is about me letting the process work. Because there's difference between, another analogy, there's a difference between being transparent and being a stripper. Strippers are transparent. They'll show you everything. But to what benefit? And so a lot of us, just because we can have an audience, we want to get out here and just tell everything we walking through, and I'm just keeping it real. But as a leader, I'm called to lead. I don't have to be a pastor to be a leader. As a leader, a gift to the body, I'm responsible for gifting something good. I don't give you half-cooked chicken. That could kill you. So I'm going to just stay in the heat in this oven, and I'm a cook in this trial. And when there is something useful to give you, I will give it to you in a way that will benefit someone.
First of all, you just confirmed why Jesus is my favorite stripper.
Your favorite one?
My favorite. The only one that I credit as a stripper is the one that took off divinity and put on humanity and died butt naked on a tree.
There was a reason for that.
There was a reason.
That gave us something. That's what I'm saying.
Stripping gave us something.
Yeah.
That emptying gave us, that pouring out
That's a pouring
gave
out.
us something.
That gave us something.
To strip means to take off.
Listen, but for what reason? Yeah.
Why did you take it off?
Why did you take it off? And is it just to relieve you? Is it just to let people be in it with you, to get some validation, to get it off your chest? That's what the therapy office is for, not your social media pages. Please, come and see us. Come and see us.
Please come and see us.
Come and see us. Not me. My roster's full.
Yeah.
But there are therapists.
She's speaking on behalf of the community and not her herself. Please don't DM Dr. Anita saying the Lord said you were to be my therapist when she just told you she's booked. Y'all have to learn how to take a clue.
Now, he said that. I did not say that.
I'm just saying.
Not necessarily me, but
it can't be. And here's the reason why. So I did a sermon when I was in my 20s because much like you, we were just PKs and
we've been in this
and we really caught it. We really caught it. So in my 20s, the Lord gave me a message called "These are not your disciples." And I in my 20s, I feel like the Lord gave me a lot of old man sermons, and I was like, why no one's gonna listen?
Just born old.
Just no one's gonna listen to me. But the sermon is in the Gospels where Jesus healed the demoniac at Gadara. And when he was clothed in his right mind, he wanted to go with Jesus across to the other side of the lake. And Jesus said, "No, go back to your city, Decapolis, and tell everybody what I did." And the premise of the whole message was, just because you've been impacted by this ministry doesn't mean you are supposed to be a part of it. Jesus told a man that had a better testimony than any of the disciples he chose.
Woo! That's a word.
Jesus had a man that was ready to drop it all and to become the 13th disciple. And Jesus' response was, yes, it was my ministry that got you free. Yes, it was my ministry that brought peace of mind. But no, you're not supposed to be with me.
Wow.
My ministry indeed impacted you. It was meant to restore you. It was meant to heal you. It was meant to set you free. But you are not my disciple.
Go.
You will do better here.
Willing to drop it all. He told him go. Another man said, I want to go. He said, drop it all.
That's exactly right. That's exactly it.
And that one did. I love it.
That's what this is about.
Yeah.
This, because again, we're seed and water. You're getting these gains, you're getting these increases. Amen. Go back. Go back to Milwaukee. Go back to LA. Go back to North Carolina. Yeah, no. God did it. Amen. I'm so grateful that the ministry blessed you. But that don't mean you're supposed to be here. Everybody ain't supposed to be here.
Go do the things.
Go do the things.
Go into all.
Your
go
testimony is
all
going
the
to be
places.
way
Yes.
better back in Philly than it is if you in Dallas.
Yeah.
So I'm listen.
Spread
Anita,
out. I love it.
Girl, you have blessed my whole soul.
Man,
Thank you for this time.
thanks for having me.
I'm gonna be presumptuous enough to say I can't wait till you come back.
Absolutely. You know,
Okay, thank you.
my energy is, I'm full. Just, I love, how we do. Sit and talk with you always. Sit and talk with you always. And thank you for what you do. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for the space that you cultivate. Thank you for the lives you pour into. Thank you for the availability that you offer, not just in public, which you do make an incredible space in public, but also in your private life with your family, with your friends. Like, I never like to miss an opportunity to say to somebody, you the real deal. And people hear them say, you the real deal.
Thank you.
So I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your ministry. I appreciate the way you love your wife and kids.
Thank you.
So thank you. Thank you for leading all of us and doing some upsetting. And yeah, you all that.
I love you, girl. Yeah. Oh, that has been Dr. Anita Phillips. I have been Tim Ross. And go get The Garden Within. If you don't already have it, what are you doing with your whole life? The links will be available. And depending on when we strategically release this, we will have links to the workbook Bible study as well. It's going to free your life. You're about to be free from within, and you are about to step into some generational blessings where there used to be generational curses. And I'm too excited to see you do that. Until next time, I love you. Peace.
Yeah, I learned the game from Charles and Maxie. You can never tax me. Back to back for the pastor that didn't even ask me. Back to back like I am the brother with equal blessings. Back to back like I'm GE 96, 97. Whoa, I want to see my dwellers really change. That's the reason for switching my freaking lane. Now I'm potting, still saying Yeshua's name. Some of y'all hoping that Timmy will go away. It's 2 years later, homie, where y'all at? Sat up on my couch and made a B-side app. I'm not sure what it was that really made that happen, but this is what I gotta do, it really made God clap. I mean, whoa.